Here we go. All right. My name is Audrey Perry, and thank you so much for coming to hear my thesis presentation. I have been studying bike parking for the last several months, and I feel like it's running through my veins now. The name of my thesis is called Lock It Up, an analysis of bicycle parking infrastructure in Thurston County. And I thought I would start with just having you think a little bit about why would we want to study bike parking. So think about how often you ride your bike. If you're someone who likes to cycle, the odds are that you're not out riding as often as you would like to be. So why is that? There are many excellent reasons to get out and cycle more, from the obvious health benefits associated with the exercise piece of it, the climate mitigation, and the financial incentives of avoiding the costs associated with vehicle fuel, maintenance, and insurance. On balance, I think society would likely be much better off if people rode their bikes more often. So, in the spring of 2025, the Thurston Regional Planning Council conducted a survey to attempt to better understand people's cycling habits. And when they analyzed their data, they found that only 2% of the trips that we take out into the community are taken by bicycle. So, given all of the benefits, why is that? How can we dig into why more trips aren't taken by bicycle? So, one of their questions was, what factors influence how often and where you ride a bike? And the results of that particular question are on the screen. The number one answer was poor weather conditions, but we can't really do a whole lot about that in the Pacific Northwest. The second most common reason was that there's no secure bike parking at my destinations. Their survey collected responses to this and many other questions from 927 residents of Thurston County, and this was one of their big takeaways. Nearly 40% of respondents reported this. And then in the fall of 2025, I got connected with them through the MES Thesis Idea Fair. So my research question is, where is the existing bicycle parking infrastructure in Thurston County, and how can it be improved? So for those two prongs, what I did is first I wanted to know what bike parking is already mapped. And the Thurston Regional Planning Council was very generous in email addresses that they gave me for a number of different municipal partners. So I contacted a whole bunch of folks, and I received data back from the Washington State Department of Transportation. Every 2 years, they do a commute trip reduction survey of work sites with 100 or more employees. And when I filtered through all of their data looking for just the folks that indicated yes to we have bike parking on site, that ended up being about 80 locations. It was a CSV file of addresses, which I then geocoded in ArcGIS Pro. And those are all of the yellow dots that you see on this map of Thurston County here. The city of Olympia returned me a geodatabase with 76 locations, which are kind of these little clusters of blue pins in the downtown corridor. The city of Lacey provided 20 locations, the green dots, and there's also an app in the App Store just called the Bicycle Parking Project. And when I downloaded that and went to their website, you can download a spreadsheet with all of their coordinates in lat-long coordinates. So I geocoded those in ArcGIS Pro. And I kind of combed through to make sure that there weren't a lot of doubles between those two data sets, and I only found 3 things that were redundant. So I ended up with a total of 232 known bike racks in Thurston County. So then I had to set out to collect data on all of the other areas. So I created a single web map with all those known locations, exported it out to ArcGIS Online, standardized the coordinate plane, and made a base map for this survey. So this is my little crowdsourced survey tool that I created in Survey 123. It's designed for mobile phone, quick to use, less than a minute. Users of this survey can drop a map pin wherever they find bike parking. They can take a picture of it, tell me about how many stalls it has, how many bikes could it accommodate, and then which of a few different statements do they agree with. Do they feel confident that their bike would be safe if they parked it there? Does it have lighting? Is it sheltered from the weather? And so forth. In answer to the second part of my question, how can our bike parking be improved? I deployed a different survey, also using the Survey 123 platform, which I kind of call my desired survey. This one took about 10 minutes to complete, and I wanted to know users' preferences and attitudes, their behaviors around bike parking, and give them an opportunity to enter as many different locations as they felt they wanted to for where they would like to see additional bike parking in Thurston County. And I deployed these surveys using those same points of contact that I got from the Thurston Regional Planning Council. So all of these folks here. And I created this little flyer with my husband's help for the art and a couple of QR codes for access to each of those two different surveys. And I promoted it as many ways as I could. Besides sending it out via email to all of these different partners, I also attended the Intercity Transit 21st Annual Earth Day Market Ride and made a whole bunch of those little flyers as business cards, which I would hand out to everybody that I could. And then I gave it to the parking valets. So when we actually made it downtown, I had students passing these things out. And I must have given out personally 100 of these QR codes. And then I also was contacted by Heal Olympia, and Daniel at Heal Oli interviewed me to post a video to his Instagram page. So I got to be Instagram famous on April 24th. And look at all the likes, 215 likes. Lots of people were interested in bike parking. And he promoted that survey also with QR codes and links to the survey. So where I noticed dead space in the data that I was getting, I went on Google Maps Street View and just sort of took screenshots of wherever I could see bike parking when I kind of zoomed around the streets and added that in manually. So as far as my results go, this is a map which those of you who access my story map later will be able to explore all of this at your leisure. Each one of these has a pop-up, which you can see with whatever data I had from the city is available in those pop-ups. And these are the 232 points that I got from my city and county collaborators. So they're all the red points. I made them red just so that you could see the green ones over the top of it. These are the ones that I collected with my survey tool. So this is a 426 total map points. And here you can see Yelm, Rainier, and Tenino. These are the points that I got for them, and they were all collected using the survey tool. And in spite of my efforts combing the streets of Bucota, I was never able to find any bike parking in Bucota, but I did look. As far as the question of how many standard bicycles could the rack accommodate, you can see from this data that we have a lot of very small bike racks in Thurston County and not a lot of very large bike racks in Thurston County. And furthermore, when asked about, is it easy to ride your bike up to the stall? Most racks folks thought that that was the case. 82% you could ride up to easily, 79% are close to the destination, 78% were placed in a way or location that made sense with its surroundings. But things sort of drop off from there until you get to, I feel confident that if I parked here, my bike would be safe. Only 33% of racks received that rating. And then as far as the survey results on desired infrastructure, I asked the question, do you think additional bike parking is needed in Thurston County? And 74% of users said yes, we need more bike parking in Thurston County. And on this map, you can see all of the points that I knew existed. Those are all now green. And the different colored circles that you see represent locations that users said we want more bike parking here. And the color coding that you see has to do with how many nearby actual racks those locations were close to. I used ArcGIS Online's Summarize Nearby tool to create these 300-foot buffers and then ran to see how many bike racks are near those locations. Because I was curious, are users telling me that they want parking where parking already exists, or is there genuinely an absence of parking in this area? And so with that tool, I was able to kind of figure that out. Blue is where there are no nearby bike racks. And I chose 300 feet just because that's kind of the length of a standard city block in downtown Olympia. Where I saw dark red circles were in the downtown area. So these two locations were close to more than 10 other bike racks. So if you click on this, there are pop-ups here associated too. There are 19 bike racks near this one other place that folks wanted to see parking. They said that they would park there 1 to 2 times per week for up to 10 hours for purposes of commuting to work. If you look to where more of the blue circles are, there were 36 desired locations that were more than 300 feet from existing infrastructure, and most of these were located in East Olympia and out in Lacey. Most common purpose for wanting new parking was to run errands, go to appointments, shopping, or dine out. 13 of the 59 responses that I got were for engaging in recreation activities. One person said, I live near here. So you can kind of see the distribution of different reasons that folks wanted new bike parking. And then there was a free comment section, and most of the comments tended to focus not on the quantity of locations, but on the quality of locations. So, the likelihood of my bike being stolen. Security is more of a concern. Security and protection from elements are more important than the number of locations. The downtown transit center is amazing. Please prioritize high quality bike racks made of solid materials and embedded into concrete. So, thinking about all of that data, one of the things that I did to try and see, what makes bike parking secure, I ran a pairwise matrix between, is my bike safe here, and all of the other things that I asked about to see if there would be any significant relationships between any of those variables. And largely, there were not any significant relationships. There were weekly positive correlations between safety and the other variables that I tested. So, but I was intrigued by the results of the desired survey that showed this need for more bike parking in the downtown Olympia area, in spite of that area already having the densest collection of existing points. So that prompted me to want to run the Summarize Within tool in ArcGIS Online. And remember that 33% of Thurston County's existing infrastructure had been rated as secure overall. But when you filter the map extent to just the downtown corridor, those 70 locations, only 16% of them received a safe rating or, safe from theft. So comparing that with the other 124 points, those were 40% secure. So given this, I believe that the points that were selected downtown were selected there not because of a desire for more infrastructure, but for higher quality infrastructure. Downtown locations were 2/3 less likely to be considered safe places to leave a bicycle. And this quote I kind of plucked out of my comments section, which I felt kind of encapsulated that sentiment a bit. I had a bike stolen downtown while it was locked up and less than 15 feet from the entrance of the establishment I was visiting. It has turned me off from taking my bike downtown entirely. By contrast, this location in the heart of downtown at the Olympia Transit Center was rated as relatively safe from theft. So, and this comment about the bike racks downtown is that the Olympia bus terminal day use bike cages are the gold standard for bike parking. We need many more of those cage systems countywide. So, what would my takeaways be from all of this? So again, my question, where is the existing bicycle parking infrastructure in Thurston County and how can it be improved? That first question, I think I was pretty successful in terms of getting a handle on where our existing bike parking is, and the tool that I created nearly doubled the known infrastructure within the county after just 1 month of deployment, and I continue to get points to my inbox all the time. The tool itself was easy to use and share across many stakeholder groups, and I expect to keep checking that data as time goes on. As users mapped existing infrastructure, the tool let them tell us a little bit about it so we could see if the parking is actually meeting people's needs the way that we want it to. The pop-ups in this particular layer of my map let you see all of the things that people had to say about it and a nice photograph to kind of encapsulate like what it actually looks like and where it's situated. This is at the Olympia Regional Learning Academy in this shot here. How can our bike parking be improved? So my big takeaway is that how we construct it is kind of at issue here. So this quote from a user was, stands that are surface mounted with lag bolts are easy to unhook using hand tools. And I almost didn't believe that when I wrote the comment because I couldn't imagine people running around downtown with hand tools. And then I found this bike rack as I was walking around with my family, and I just happened to come across it, and it was clearly disconnected from the floor entirely. So this was downtown Olympia. What we seem to need more of are bike cages and bike boxes. I didn't see a lot of those, but 100% of the ones that I did see were rated as secure. So these are things that people feel really comfortable, it would seem, locking their bikes inside of. This one is at the Olympia Timberland Library. This one is outside of Tumwater Middle School. And not only did this project provide insight into how we could improve the quality of existing infrastructure, but we can see where users would like to see additional parking and why. How often are they going to be there and for how long and why do they want to be there? Commercial zones where people work and shop are the areas that people most want to see new parking. Though residential bike parking did come up as a consideration as well. I saw that in the comments a lot too, that trying to get their bikes in and out of apartment complexes can be really it's a deterrent to wanting to own a bike and use a bike. In my literature review, I looked at policy tools that would promote bike parking. And to get more bike parking where it's needed, one of the best tools across the world is building code mandates. So promoting bike parking infrastructure in new locations. And 3 Thurston County jurisdictions already have those, Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater. And you can see from this map that that is where most of the points happen to be. That is also where most of the people live in Thurston County. So there is certainly, a shift toward we put it where the people are. But if you wanted to promote, like say in the city of Bucota, if you wanted more bike parking, you might consider implementing a mandate of that type. And what about areas with older construction? We do have one program that I learned about in the county, and that's the Bike Racks on Demand program in Olympia. So, which, if you're interested, there is a link to that website in my story map and also a link to the flyer that tells you more about it. But programs like that can be highly effective in retrofitting areas with older infrastructure built prior to construction mandates. Portland and Vancouver, BC have similar programs and are considered to be examples of some of the most bike-friendly Northwest cities. So that's a consideration that I would put out there for folks looking to improve their own infrastructure. And I wanted to make sure to acknowledge my many, 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 many partners that I had on this. Obviously, a huge thanks to my evergreen faculty. Anthony, thank you so much for your introduction and for walking me through this whole process. Mike Ruth helped me with a lot of my GIS needs. Carrie, Avery, and Kevin for their support through other stages of this thesis. And Michelle Swanson and John Lindsay at the City of Olympia deserve a special shout out for all of the information they gave me about the Bike Racks on Demand program, the geodatabase, and for mapping points for me. I think all of my Rainier points came from Michelle Swanson, so that was a really big help. Thank you to my partners at WashDOT for all of their information and survey data. Thank you to my other municipal collaborators, like at Intercity Transit and the City of Yelm and the Thurston County Community Planning and Economic Development Group, City of Tumwater, City of Lacey, Experience Olympia and Beyond, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee as well. And thanks to Daniel at Heel Oli, thanks to Daniel Garcia at Bike Thurston, and Karen Mesmer at the Thurston Climate Action Team. They helped tremendously at getting my surveys promoted and mapping more points for me. They were very welcoming at their meetings. Thanks to Nathaniel Burnett at the Bicycle Parking Project. And thanks so much to my partners at the Thurston Regional Planning Council, Paul Brewster, Chelsea Embry, Michael Mills, Michael Ambrogi, Katrina Van Every, and everybody else there for their support and inspiration with this project. I really hope it was everything that you are hoping for. I look forward to sharing more of my data with you. And I'd be happy to open it up to questions as I conveniently leave my presentation on these 2 QR codes for anyone who might be interested in mapping points or delving deeper into my story map. Thank you all so much.
Hey.